if you haven't seen it, like you can't judge it. You instantly are you're pushing things onto it that you're worried it's gonna have, and then you dig until you see them.
I hate vampires who don't move on. 500, 400, 3,000 years old, I don't give a shit. When they still act like it's the 17th century or the 15th century and they're bemoaning a dead person who's been dead for 400 years, move on with that shit.
I have no problem with negative emotion, and I have no problem with people, being down or what have. My problem is when you belabor a point beyond all fucking narrative point.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of Writing Prose.
Down by the river.
Oh, God.
Down by the river where we have the writing prose.
You might notice we're down one.
We're down a Canete.
We're blaming Eric for this already being off the rails.
Oh, you didn't hear what happened?
It was the monkeypox.
Oh, no. Eric, the police saw the last show. A couple shows back. And they brought him in for questioning where he promised he was going to kill. Oh, no, he's being held right now.
Those boxes behind Gib are the books that Eric wanted, including How to Get Off from Murder.
Exactly. How to hire Johnny Cochran to get you off for potentially killing your family before a demon does. I'm sorry. If you're not here to defend yourself, it's... what else did you say? What else happened to Eric? Butt COVID. He definitely got
butt COVID.
That's why I said monkeypox.
Yeah.
Space herpes.
His third testicle descended.
Reminds
he's like a Klingon, it brings on hyper aggression. Like next time he's on, you're gonna see he's gonna be way more. He's gonna really.
He's gonna have ridges.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to clue him in on all of this so he can play into it. All right, so we decided we were going to talk about kind of like our least favorite.
It's the talking shit episode.
It is. Like it's our least favorite shit that we see in writing. Types of writing, tropes in writing.
Okay, I'm gonna go first since I said under no circumstances was I gonna go first.
This is gonna be horrifying.
I'm intrigued. Go for it.
Adults trying to do emo writing.
Oh, that's my whole shtick.
Okay, give me some examples.
No, but as adults, as if they can capture the melancholy of being like a 16-year-old girl again or something.
Well, but that's the thing. But are they writing? So is it adults writing children who are being emo, or is it just adults being sadness? Because that's just clinical depression, which a lot of people suffer from. So which one are you going with?
Both.
No, it's a depression. You're allowed to write about depression as you're older.
You're allowed
because time's ticking away.
Wow.
That's.
I'm sorry. The only people who could say anything about depression have to be under 18 like that. No, because everything.
No, I don't even want to hear from them either.
So you just don't like emotional writing about negative emotions.
I don't like it. Okay, you have to understand. Fanfic.
You are no longer my editor.
Fanfic is the playground of the long suffering, right? So I have no problem with negative emotion, and I have no problem with people, being down or what have. My problem is when you belabor a point beyond all fucking narrative point. It's like, well, you had a whole couple of chapters in which your character was sad, but then it kept going and going and going and going.
So one-dimensional characters that are clinically depressed and never grow past that.
If you want to know how to make me click the X on your story faster than anything else, it's mopey fucks.
I need a new editor.
No, here's the thing, okay? If a person, a real life person, finds themselves in a cycle of depression, right?
Okay.
Typically, as a person who has the ability to actually think for themselves as opposed to what their writer is doing for them. At a certain point, they may in fact realize that they're depressed. At a certain point, they may actually try things to find out why they're depressed, or to perhaps break them from the cycle. They might take some onus.
This feels like such a specific, like, what story hurt you? There's such a specific story you're thinking of right now.
That's touching. Yeah. What? Well, no, you don't have to necessarily say specifics. I get the gist. It also depends where are you at in your headspace when you're coming across these stories, whether you're reading them, watching them, whatever, consuming through whatever media format.
I'm just not 15. I can't read 20 chapters about what was me.
But you're not the audience, and that's something we have to speak to. But it doesn't matter. It's still our personal, what gets our goat kind of thing, Like I to tangentially related to what Sai said, I hate vampires who don't move on.
Glitter.
No. Whatever. She made her money,
glitter.
but no, I don't care. I don't give a shit. I wish I could write a glittery vampire and make a ton of money and sell out. I would sell out right now. No, I
be a Mormon.
Put it this way. Well, no. Put it this way. When you come across a story where some guy's like, some descendant of Dracula or like 500, 400, 3,000 years old, I don't give a shit. When they still act like it's the 17th century or the 15th century and they're bemoaning a dead person who's been dead for 400 years, move on with that shit. Because
that is a little...
It's and this one strikes me hard only because sometimes I get negative feedback from my Salem character, because he's over 200. He's not a vampire, but he's over 200 and he still acts immature. And people are like, you shouldn't act that way because you're projecting what you think you'd act at 200. My favorite old people are the ones who act like insane old people, the ones who are like get into trouble and steal cars and they still want to know how technology works. Now imagine you're in a body that doesn't age, but you're always finding new things that'd be cool and get into. Like, why? The best old people are the ones who act like children, who tell dirty jokes, who steal a waitress's tip and give it to a waitress. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to see loam dreams. I think of a time when darkness crept the land and Lenora was my wife. Fuck you. Get that shit out of here.
That's fair.
Grow the fuck. I am not joking. I don't know, but I have this book idea I've been kicking around for a while. It's called Plucky McGurk, the Sunshine Vampire. And it's like she is just this happy, upbeat, ass-kicking vampire who just she just crashes these parties of these shitty old people. And life is great. Oh my God. And she has so much fun. And it's like she just hangs out with a team of ugly monsters.
Would that be Mavis?
What's that?
Kinda.
Who's Mavis?
Mavis from Hotel Transylvania. The Dracula's daughter.
Yeah.
I guess. This one can actually go in the sun.
She gets pissy though. Mavis
gets
pissy and helicopter parenting.
Shit, I haven't watched that in forever with my kid. But I guess so, maybe.
Shae and I watched them all a few months ago.
They were fun.
I remember the first one being a lot of fun because my son at the time of that age, I think we watched that and Kung Fu Panda 1 and 2
I never saw it.
Over and over and over.
I could not get through Kung Fu Panda.
How you were talking about the old people that break the rules and stuff. One of my favorites, there's this older woman who, I don't know if it's YouTube or TikTok or whatever, but she'll go places where there's she was in a doctor's waiting room and there's this giant Christmas tree and there was a sign up next to the Christmas tree and says, "Please don't touch the Christmas tree." So they look at the sign and then they pan over to her and she looks at dead into the camera and she goes, boom, to the Christmas tree, and then she shuffles, old woman shuffles away she's trying to make a break for it. She's fucking hilarious. She also was in a furniture store jumping on the top bunk of a bunk bed, and she had a Thug Life style t-shirt, but it was Grandma Life, and she's jumping on the bed and then she goes,
yeah, see, that's
yes,
because that's the stuff that that, I don't want to be one of those old people later
crotchety.
Right, because it's kind of
now.
Right?
Well, it is.
We're getting it all out of the way up front. That's what it is.
But it is. I mean, well, we're reaching that age. It's not necessarily midlife, but it's kind of like when you're in 20s, the world's your oyster. When you're 30s, you start looking for reason and meaning. People start looking for like, this was meant to happen. This was this. I found this function. This has meaning. It's all, but it's, and then you get it next decade later, you're like, it's all contrived. It doesn't matter. Everything's an accident. Who gives a shit? But that right around the 40s is when people start. You have to make that conscious decision. Is this still my world? Meaning, like older gentlemen, people in my family, like, it's not my world anymore. Things have changed too much. I don't belong here. And they retire themselves mentally. You know, they'll sit there and watch whatever news outlet of their preference all day long and talk about how things were better back in the past. I don't want to be that way. I want to embrace whatever is like, just because it's new doesn't make it better. But that being said, there's so much cool stuff that's constantly happening.
You're talking about my mom and CNN, by the way. I just want you to know.
My parents-in-law and the exact same thing.
My mom and no news outlet whatsoever. No, she actually, my mom is more the embrace everything. Like she wakes up.
Yes.
She'll wake up at 6, 7 in the morning. Well, she wakes up at 6 and has her coffee, and by 7, she's like, okay, so we need to saw down this galvanized post, and we need to take down these 2 trees, and I'm getting out my power tools, and I'm fixing a wall, and it's like, you're 73, and she's like, I'm not dead.
Right.
She's like, I got shit to do, and I want all this done before 2 because I would like to just relax and enjoy the rest of my day. And I was like, okay. So every time I go visit her, it feels like kind of being in the military again. Like you're getting all this heavy shit done, and by 2 o'clock, she's like, beer, and I'm like, yeah,
it is beer.
Yeah, a beer sounds great. She's like, okay, I've got a 12-pack in the fridge. And I was like,
your mom
is the best mom ever.
Your mom has such an interesting take on like the old person early bird special. It's like early bird happy hour.
She's all about getting everything done so noon will pass and it is now socially acceptable to have a beer. And she can turn around and say, bitch, I've been working in the yard all day. I'm going to have a fucking cold one. And you're like, okay.
No.
Yep.
I was doing yard work before we came and recorded this. I'm glad you can't smell me. I had some sweat stains on the shirt. I'm trying to tuck it down, and the other
is dry.
Yeah.
Is that why you're going to the pool afterwards? You just dive in and call it good.
I will take a quick shower before I go over. You don't want somebody's like funk butt to get into the pool, chlorine or not.
Depends on if it's a public pool or not, and how strong the chlorine is.
It's a friend of ours who live around 5 miles away. They moved in, and they're close friends of ours, and they invite us like, hey, we're having a pool day. You want to come over? I'm like, yes, God, yes. It's hot. My son's bored out of his mind. It's summertime. Like, yeah, why not? And he's like, if you stop bring ice, we could have margaritas. I'm like, that's a twofer. So we'll do that.
You're like, yeah, I can get ice.
Wait, I bring a state of water. And then I get alcohol.
This is the right kind of juice.
This is the good kind of friendship.
Because I bring you frozen cubes of water and you give me margarita. That sounds.
I also think because the husband and wife, I'm friends with both of them. And I've known their kids a couple of them since before they were born. So I'm always Uncle Gibby when we go over there and hang out. But I also know that she'll probably want to talk nerd stuff when we get over there because he just saw the movie Prey and I watched it, and she just watched the Sandman. I know she's going to talk to me about that. So I know I got more nerd talking to do while we swim and have margaritas. So.
By the way, Shae, I totally legally downloaded Prey last night. Totally legal.
Sounds.
I'll say this for that flick. So as long as you're bringing it back to storytelling, it's solid. It is solid, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's got 9 minutes of credits that you don't. So it's only a 90-minute flat movie, but it feels longer, but in a good way. But I will say this: as you watch it, pay attention. In the beginning, she's got all this war paint on. And the best thing about this character is she's a wannabe. She's a tryhard. She wants to be a hunter. She wants to do these things. But she's afraid to pull the metaphorical trigger. She hesitates. And as the movie goes on, her war paint is worn away. And it gets replaced with scars and blood. So when she eventually puts the war paint on and again, she ain't fucking around now. And I truly appreciated that non... what's what I'm looking for? The sub. It's
like foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that there's an arc, she doesn't come into it as this ass-kicking
she's not Joan of Arc or
badass.
anything. Nope.
And that's the funny part.
Constantly.
I had no idea of anything about this movie. The one thing I heard was there's a good arc of a strong female character in this.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm in. And I think Shae would love that.
It's the best kind of strong female, but I guess that's saying from a straight white guy, so I don't give a shit. But it's one of those, she practices constantly, but when push comes to shove, practice is not performance. Right. And you can't do it until you do it. And that's some of the other like hunters are trying to tell her. So when like she eventually, but her training does come back to her, but it's one of those like you have to get over that mental fear of like metaphorically pulling the trigger. Or
it's like coming straight out of training and going into war.
Right.
And by the way, Shae, Prey is a Predator movie.
I know.
Oh, okay. I
Predator
had never heard of
the
it.
1980s, Shae. So no, it's been.
You see,
it's been
when an alien and a man love each other.
They share a special handshake with the big muscles, and they do like this, and it becomes an internet meme, and everybody won't shut up about it for many decades.
Yeah.
But I think it's like there's a lot of doomsayers who are waiting for this movie to fail, it feels like, when the first trailer first came out, because all they saw was Predator and a girl. Like, how is this 110-pound girl going to beat up a Predator? I don't like it. Like, movie's not even out yet. Give it a damn
Arnold
chance.
Schwarzenegger struggled. Why the fuck should she have any success?
Well, so this
right.
And see, we want to get back into things that bother me about storytelling. This is something that bothers me about audiences, right? I understand that there's a lot of red flags, especially in a lot of entertainment media today, right? But if you haven't seen it, you aren't like you can't judge it. You instantly you're pushing things onto it that you're worried it's gonna have.
You're conscious
and
unconscious
you dig
biases.
until you see them.
Oh, that happens all the time. To the point.
It drives me nuts. Like right now, there is not a single fucking movie that anyone could make that would star any person and follow any storyline that wouldn't instantly have half of the fucking population being, it's shit. Like, how is your life so miserable that everything straight out the gate is just shit? Watch some stuff, okay? There's stuff that I watched that, granted, the storytelling, pretty fucking basic. Not gonna lie. Right? I enjoyed it. I had fun with it.
Which one?
I'll just storytelling in general.
Got it.
I'm not naming because I don't need people coming at me.
Shae, I can name something that you would not instantly hold a bias for. Jeff Bridges and Ryan Reynolds in an undead buddy cop movie.
That movie's garbage.
We loved it.
Such a bad movie.
We loved it.
But see, here's the thing: is like, okay. The movie is terrible. Admittedly, the movie is absolutely terrible.
Are you objectifying me as a woman?
So many plot holes.
It was
like really confusing storyline, really terrible logic, but going in with zero expectations and just being like, I just want something stupid. Like, I just want something mindless. That fit the bill. That was mindless. There were a lot of points where we were like, this is dumb. This is really fucking dumb. It's like, you want to turn off? No. No, I want to keep watching. I want to see what else stupid happens, you know? Because not everything has to be like the next fucking blockbuster. Like, things can suck, and it can be okay that they suck, and you can still like them and admit that they suck. Like, it's not, you're not like trying to hit a certain amount of, you know, cool points or whatever for the shit that you like.
Well, the thing is, like, sometimes you can like a good bad movie. I mean, I am no stranger to that. I mean, I say this with no hesitation on how much I love it. Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
I never saw it. I wanted to see it.
Stupid movie. I am the director's cut. It's even better. Oh my God. It is like, it's so dumb, and it knows it, and it gets it. Hansel's got diabetes from all the sugar he ate.
Wow.
From eating, so he has to give himself these injections constantly. He never says exactly what it is. It just says if I don't get them every so often, I fall asleep and I almost don't wake up. So it's like he's got the beaties from all the sugar the witch made him eat in that cat. That was amazing.
Shae, we need
and now they have all the steampunk weapons.
We need the GIF over the top of this with Wilford Brimley. Diabetes intensifies.
All right.
So is it the unrated Gibby? Because I see both of them here.
Yeah, it's the unrated. That's the director's cut.
Okay.
That's I said I own it. I got it on Vudu. If you just want to like one day just log in and watch it, we could do that.
Yes. So one of the other things,
$30.
specifically in writing, that I was going to talk about that I don't hate, but that is rarely done well, and I hate when it's done poorly. If you're going to write in iambic pentameter, please.
Oh my God.
Understand what that is and how to.
Okay, Shae, you can cut this out.
So there are people that have tried it, and there are people who in our indie circles who have tried it, and there's some people who do it well, and there are some people who I don't know what you wrote, to be honest. And so I read one, and it was
bad.
It was really, really rough. Okay, so aside from the fact that the flow broke frequently, because you have to realize that unless, like, the whole point, if you're going to start out with a rhyming scheme, you have to maintain it. Mm-hmm. If you can't maintain it, don't start with it. Then it just becomes poetic. And it can be free flow, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But the other problem that people have is if it's an accent and that is the only way that it rhymes, you have to heavily establish that accent before you get to the word that it's going to rhyme with. You can't just be like, well, if you say it like you're from Brooklyn, then it works. And it's like, hey, nothing else from Brooklyn in this entire thing. And then this one word will suddenly work. Like, how are we supposed to know?
What was the accent you adopted leading up to the word Brooklyn, though? That wasn't...
What was this random
What was the
toys? Almost Irish, but it wasn't quite there.
But yeah, this comes from somebody who, like, I've read a lot of poetry growing up, and it's hilarious. My two favorite poets are like juxtaposed to one another because I absolutely love Edgar Allan Poe and Robert Frost.
Sure.
Oh my God.
So we've got the super dark emo, and we have the happy, enlightening, like, joyous side of things.
Yeah.
Yes.
It gets better kind of thing. Yeah.
And I those two are what I kind of have formed a lot of my opinions on writing poetry specifically on. And then you have people like oh gosh, what was her name? Emily Dickinson, who is just batshit fucking crazy, and 90% of what she wrote doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense.
My wife loves her to the point where the top of our wedding cake was an Emily Dickinson like Stitch doll and an Optimus Prime that was all white in like in a tuxedo. So it was.
That is awesome. Yeah, Emily Dickinson kills me. Like I remember she has a poem that I think is called "Who Am I" or something like that, or "I'm Nobody." It's something like that. But the poem is the only one of hers that I read that I was like, I could at least follow a string of logic in this one. But the other ones, I'm like, she's over here talking about being frogs and like, I don't know, licking bark. I don't know, like just weird shit. Like she just doesn't make sense. And then she's like, and it'll be like 4 sentences. And she's like, there you go. Ponder that. And it's like, I don't even know what you said. Like I don't even think that's English. But yeah, so that's one of my biggest gripes is people trying to do a rhyming convention and doing it poorly. Like,
let me see. What are some of the things I don't? Yeah, this is just our kvetching episode, I guess. Yeah. I hate the chosen one mechanic. It's very played out, and I wish people would stop it. There have been some great ones. You know, you get like the Neo from the Matrix, or you get like the Randall Thors from the Wheel of Time series. But like at a certain point you realize when someone's been prophesized to do blank, it kind of removes the illusion of danger because it's going to happen. You know, very rarely does someone like set up to be a chosen one and they fail. So
right. And to its credit, the original Matrix had that moment of what the fuck just happened when he got shot and then fell down and then his heart stopped.
Right.
But then they kept flirting with him failing, and it's like, he's not going to fail. You already fucking baited us once.
Right. But then again, that movie was so... It borrowed the allegory of the cave from Plato, if anybody's not familiar with it. Anybody not familiar? Okay.
Sure, I'm not.
Okay, if you are, then I'll just... but for the sake of the audience, okay, so the allegory of the cave is from Plato's Republic. When basically the entire book is what is justice? And it's like a big, long diatribe. But at one point, there's something called the allegory of the cave, where they're trying to imagine what is real and what is not real. So imagine if you took 3 children from the time they were born, put them inside of a cave. You chain them so that their backs are against a wall. They can not only look forward, they cannot look left, they cannot look right, but they are aware of the other children to their next to them. Behind them is a fire, and people are doing puppet theater. So what they see on the wall as shadows, to them is reality. This is a tree. This is a bird. This is a rock. They can speak because of people, so they understand language and they understand this. And then, as a joke, you let one of them out of the cave and show them the real world. And once you let them out and they see what the real world actually is, how long it takes for them to reprocess how they think. And then you send that person back into the cave to try to explain to the other 2 who are still trapped there that this is not real. And it's this wonderful story about perception is reality. Well, sounds a shitload like The Matrix.
Yeah.
Because you have people who are in this thing, what they feel is real, they pull them out, and then it's like they can't accept what is real. They'd rather go back and know. Yeah, it's a beautiful sci-fi version of that allegory.
Yeah.
So.
You know what that reminds me of? The 13th Floor.
Oh yeah, that was a class one came out about the same time. You know, it's like Equilibrium and what was the other movie? And it was Equilibrium and The Matrix about the same time, both dystopian kind of like futures. But 13th Floor was another one of those that came out roughly the same time as The Matrix, right?
So 13th Floor was 1999. Let me think about The Matrix. Let me think about it by looking it up.
1999.
1999.
So just before I went to Korea. Yep.
So yeah, but oddly enough, I think I saw 13th Floor first somehow, or basically I saw them at completely separate time periods, and I remember more. Matrix blew my mind for the effects. 13th Floor blew my mind because it was almost Matrix and Inception at the same time. And I don't know, 13th Floor had a more profound effect on me. And by the way, I just want to circle back. When Shae was throwing shit at the Undead Buddy Cop movie...
I was talking about Dead Heat. I
with Joe Piscopo.
Because we watched them really close to each other, and so I conflated who was in what. So R.I.P.D. I actually fucking loved it. It was terrible, and I loved it. And it was so fucking stupid and funny, and I will watch that again.
I'm pulling up the IMDb. I don't think I ever watched Dead Heat, and based off this,
Dead Heat
I think I was in the right
abysmal
for having not watched it. Yeah, okay.
Dead Heat is abysmal. It is so bad, so bad.
but you so go into it.
It's fucking hilarious to watch. Like it's hideously bad.
Right.
Yeah. Whatever noise just happened behind you, that woo.
Oh, that's my son in the background.
I know.
Oh gosh, I had a point and I totally forgot it. Oh, talking about like the Chosen One. You know what I really want to see more of that I don't think that people are comfortable enough writing. I want to see the one that you, for all intents and purposes, assume is the Chosen One. Like they're kitted out. They've got the intelligence, they've got the, specific skill set, whatever, and you watch them fail and they don't recover immediately, if ever. Like the Dark Tower series with Roland, I had so much denial when he lost his gunslinger hand. Like when he lost his fingers and could no longer pull the trigger, and I was like, no, it's fake. It'll come back. And I read for like another I don't even know how long. I read like another huge chunk, and the whole time I was in denial, like, it'll come back, it'll come back, it'll come back. And I was like, it doesn't come back. Why isn't it coming back? Because I hadn't read something where they take your main character and they have this unbelievable ability that they're head and shoulders above anyone they come across, and then you rip it away from them. And it's such a tragic and difficult thing to stomach as a reader, but as a storytelling mechanism, it's, when done appropriately, it is so fucking powerful.
For fantasy fans out there, if you've never read, she's one of my favorites, Robin Hobb, and she wrote this. Actually, it's like 3 trilogies, but the first one, the Farseer trilogy, it's a fantasy story, but it follows this fantastical European style fantasy thing. But it's the lead character is a guy named Fitz, which just means bastard, because that's what he is. His father, all the nobility in this realm have like some name like chivalry or regal, or some kind of like pompous name, and they call him Fitz Chivalry because the crown prince had an illicit affair, and this kid comes to be, and technically he's royalty, but he's a bastard, so they train him to be an assassin, and he has to become an assassin's apprentice, and it's pretty cool. But as Fitz grows and learns and does, and he gets stronger and he gets better, one of the foils poisons him and he almost dies. I mean, after he's spending like summers on a rose ship getting stronger and better, you're like, he's like, almost like a montage. He never really recovers from that. His hand will tremble at the worst time. His health was racked forever, and I was crushed reading this.
Yeah.
Like no, but this is like the guy, this is the lead, how can you do this, And and then when he was supposed to get with the girl, like, no, he was too late. She married. She had other children. He doesn't get to the girl. And this is like breaking my heart. And so I think it's like oh, dude. But it's multiple trilogies, so things like it wasn't planned that way. But it's one of the best set of books of character development I've ever read. And every time I've lent the book to other people, I almost never got it back. So I had kept 2 spare copies of the trilogy, just in case. One is mine and one's my lending set, because I had to rebuy that thing several times because I just never got it back from people. So yeah, the first book is called The Assassin's Apprentice. It came out somewhere in the mid '90s, late '90s, and it is phenomenal. And I hope to one day to be as half as good as she was when it comes to character development, because she's who I want to be, essentially.
Well, and see, that's the thing that I think is a really difficult skill to learn as a writer. And just like you, that's something that I want to be able to do. I want to create characters that feel real, that aren't these magical, super above everyone around them, untouchable, godlike characters. I want characters that are real, and I want characters that falter, and I want characters that don't necessarily recover. Just like we were talking about Curse of the Bathory, that's going to be a real test to see if I can write a flawed character that people still want to read.
Sure.
And there's I love the idea of somebody being able to kind of redeem themselves, but in a way that is not necessarily satisfying. Like if you have somebody who's going up against a big bad, the satisfying redemption would be destroying the big bad, right? And then they persist on and have a nice, fulfilling, happy life with riches and never have troubles again.
Right.
I like the idea of I can't find any other way than to just like burn the field, salt the earth kind of thing, where it's like all the options are nuclear options, because I can't best you, but I can maybe bury you or fuck your shit up where it's at least going to be very difficult for you to come back, even if it means destroying everything that I care about, because I feel like you've got everybody tells the hero story, because that's the most satisfying one to tell. It's also one of the easiest ones to tell because you're going to constantly, no matter what, you know your guy's going to win, right? So as you're writing, you're like, he's going to win though. So if I write into a corner, reevaluate, figure out what that corner was, figure out how I can establish it early on that isn't a corner, and fixed. But when you're writing a character and you're trying to keep them a little bit more organic, you don't know that they're going to win. And you don't know if their thought of how they're going to win is going to work. And being able to write through that and then hit a point and be like, fuck, they lose. Okay, cool. Like, I am now writing a story where my main character that you spent all this time with loses. And I know there's a lot of people who hate that kind of storytelling and who don't want to read it, and that's fine. Because I personally like stories where characters grow and change and develop, and they don't always win.
100%. I know what you're saying, and we love a classic story where the good guys win. You know, the good person wins. You know, Luke Skywalker blows up the Death Star, but then conversely, he loses to Darth Vader, gets his hand chopped off, and his best friend gets taken away in Empire, you know, and then you have to bring it all the way back. Like it's, and I say this with not in jest, but in reality, classic pro wrestling will have the bad guy with the championship belt win constantly, and the good guy that the fans are behind will do everything right, and just as he's about to win, the bad guy cheats and gets to hang on to the belt for another week, 2 months, and it's like, it's so but so when they eventually get that win, they go 1, 2, and 3, the crowd goes nuts. You have to give them the win eventually, but you have to strip them away of everything that makes them special. To like, the only thing that makes them special is their determination and their character of who they are. So when you beat somebody down, you know, torture porn, as we've talked about in the past, but like, beat them down, make them lose, but make them learn. And, you know, they don't get to be plucky anymore. They don't get to be energetic anymore. Sometimes they have to like
be
step
serious.
up. Or what if your chosen one or your hero never gets the win, but trains the next generation to get the win for them? They become the coach in that way, like the great star athlete that doesn't actually win the championship, but gets to coach the people that do. You know, there are a lot of different ways to take this type of character that's fulfilling, but it's like slightly different than what you like. I hate to use the term, what did Ryan Johnson kept saying all over and over and over, subvert your expectations to the point where that's just become like mainstream storytelling. I stopped believing in like, you're just going to show me I'm not expecting anyway, so I don't give a shit. But you know, there are a lot of different ways to take it, that other than that's rainbow and sunshines and stuff that's not just all like dead puppies and rainstorms. Also, there is a fine line between it, you know, and it's where you get to like develop that in your craft and don't rush the work. You know, if you took, you know, like Iron Man 3 took away his suit of armor for the most of the movie, where he had to spend just time being Tony Stark. And I kind of like that. You know, there were other aspects of the flick that grated my nerves because it broke its own internal logic.
Which one is that? The one with the people who got hot, or was that the Ben Kingsley?
People got hot.
Okay.
That was the hot people hot. Yeah, it was the Shane Black one, so it was like done at Christmas time, and it's depression movie like all Shane Black movies are. They're always done at Christmas, and it's about someone who's depressed.
He was really depressed.
And I say that in a good way. Yeah, but that's he also did Lethal Weapon, started at Christmas. Riggs was really depressed. He helped like co-write like Die Hard, happens at Christmas. He's really depressed because he's losing his wife.
Yeah, but those are good.
Yeah, I know. This one, I mean, just the nerd of me got mad when the suit ran out of power and he crash landed in Kentucky or whatever. But doesn't this thing in his chest like make power? Why did it run out of power? Because the plot needed it to happen. So the nerd in me is like, no, and I had a hard time.
You can't break your own logic. You set this up over the course of many movies. There's an internal
set of logic that you have to follow.
Yes.
Work around it, you know. But that
so there's something that I hate in writing.
Breaking your own internal set of logic.
Exactly.
Go for it.
Just
expound.
Just for the sake of plot, you're going to undermine what has been established, either through multiple movies, through years, sometimes through decades. Okay. There are some times when you can get away with it, right? There are very nuanced instances in which I'm going to fall back to my default fandom here that I've been watching since I was 4 years old. You can do it in Star Trek, but you got to do it gently. You got to do it in a considered, deliberate way, and you have to explain why. in a way that you're not going to alienate the people that for 20 years have been taught that 1 + 1 = 2. If you're gonna make it equal 4, you gotta walk me through the math. When you don't do that, just for the sake of going, oh well, what would happen if? Find another way. Find a way to make the if without fucking over 20 years of continuity or 2 movies of continuity or your first 20 chapters.
That's like all of the comics that do like an Otherworld or an Elseworld storyline where it's like outside of the canon, what if in this instance this happened instead, and then they drastically change everything, but that puts it off to the side of
right
canonical, and that's that. Like, I know people that get pissed about that. I'm actually okay with that, because I'm like, if you divert from and say in this instance, what if Darkseid won instead of losing, and then this is what happens, like,
I'm very okay with that. I really am, because you go when you pick up an Elseworlds book, you know it's an Elseworlds book.
Exactly.
Or when I start reading a fan fiction and I see the tag at the top that says alternate universe or canon divergence, which is what a lot of them say, and stuff like that, I go in expecting that things have changed, or maybe some things are in flux. But when I turn on the TV to my favorite whatever, and we're 3 years down the road, and all of a sudden, I can't even think of a good fucking example. I really can't, and just blame my tiredness.
Block them from your memory.
But when I turn that on, and like, if I turn on Stargate and suddenly, you know, God, I can't think of a good example. I'm sorry. Just cut this whole thing.
How
you're
about
trying to think of a way to
exactly
encapsulate the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say exactly what Gibbs said. The Tony Stark's suit runs out of power, despite the fact that his heart is what is the device in the center of his chest is what fuels the power. So how could it run out of power and have Tony
He'd be
Stark
dead if it didn't have power. He'd be dead. Yeah.
Exactly.
If I turn on an episode of Stargate SG-1 in season 5 and suddenly Carter's a moron, Daniel is cool and hip, and O'Neill is the smartest one in the group, which, by the way, he was really smart. He just didn't show it very often.
Anyway.
The point is, you got to tell me why, because you've built these characters around certain precepts, and it's like, you can't just do this to me. Otherwise, I'm just going to throw it away. It's not going to do what you want it to do, and I hate that.
So I do have a question. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, how, you know, Gib, you said you always need to eventually give them the payoff. In a hero story, clearly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you think of a genre where that isn't the case? Because I thought that I had, and then the more I thought about it, I feel like I was incorrect.
Say the question again. Let me think about this. Say it again.
So we feel like we always have to eventually give the payoff, right? Where the good does prevail. Can you think of genres where that doesn't necessarily happen? And the first thing to pop into my head was horror, right? But here's the thing. In horror, you can't kill off everyone.
So one of my favorite movies.
Survivor.
It's not a great movie, but it's one of my personal favorites of all time, starring Sir Denzel Washington, was called The Fallen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I knighted him in my head because the man deserves it. Did you ever see The Fallen, starring Denzel Washington? Maybe a bajillion years ago. Here's the
Fallen?
gist.
I loved it.
F-A-L-L. Yes. So Denzel Washington is a cop in I don't forget which city, doesn't really matter. And it opens with him. He's been tracking this one guy played by Elias Codier, who's been he's been this killer for years, and he finally caught him. And he's caged, and it finds out that there's a demon inside of his killer, and demon hops by touch. So if he touches anybody, he hops to the next person, and the next person, the next
yes,
person.
I have seen this. I fucking love this movie.
And then he starts fucking with his time is on my side. He's singing that song over and over. End of the movie, Denzel Washington does not win. He dies alone in the thing, and the demon gets away because they showed at the beginning that the demon can't hop into animals. So Denzel takes the demon to a place where he can't go anywhere, but he thinks he's alone.
Like a cabin in secluded woods, or something like that.
But he can last he can stand outside of a body for the length of a breath. But then there's an animal, and it's like, and it opens with the time I told you I almost died. And the song keeps playing. The time it's like the sympathy for the devil plays, and the animal gets away. The demon continues. A good guy loses. Yeah. Amazing. Well done. Really good. But that's the reason is like, but that's the kind of movie or the kind of writing you can get away with once every couple of years. Like it's not once a generation, not once every 10 years, but like every couple of years you can get away with that. Otherwise, it becomes the norm. And then you kind of have to have the hero win 7 to 8 out of 10, so that when he loses that 1 to 3 times, it has impact. Right. You know, that's the reason you set up Empire Strikes Back the way it did, because the good guys lost. They limped along. Like the music is melancholy. Luke's got a new robot hand, but like the fleet is broken. His like Han's out there captured. You know, Darth Vader just won. You know, and like it's like the rebellion was crushed in Hoth, and they're still scattered. So it's like the music is melancholy with a trill of hope for at the very end. So, but you had to wait another 2.5 years until you got to Return of the Jedi. So you had to suffer that loss for that period of time before they eventually won. You know, and that's doing storytelling well. You know, you're allowed to lose. You know, I like a good loss from time to time.
Well, and that's the thing is I think in a lot of horror, if it's done appropriately, it's incredibly impactful. But if you're doing when you do slashers, you always have to have a survivor, because if you don't have a survivor, then who's going to be the one that's going to drop all the exposition at some point in the fucking movie, because we don't know what this is, and you don't want to watch. Like the reason they always have a survivor is because the survivor saw what works and what doesn't work, and the survivor barely escaped with their life. Even if they're broken mentally, even if they're broken physically, they understand. And when you go to do a second movie with that same baddie, you don't want it to be the first movie again. So if you don't have the survivor to clue in the newbies about this is what works and what doesn't work, then you just effectively are telling the exact same story with new cast.
Right.
So it's the whole reason that they have a survivor in horror is just and so you can do that. And then there's the added benefit of some of them will have a layer of vengeance where the good guy who lost will eventually win, maybe as an underdog, maybe.
Well, I'm not an expert in the field. I have to assume I can't. Unfortunately, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I know they're out there. Romantic comedies. So-and-so does not get together with so-and-so because they learn the true powers, and then the whole time, and they find the other person. You know, there's always that person who was there with them the whole. You know,
I've got
there's always a case where go ahead.
Robert Downey Jr. What was it? Chances Are. Did you ever see that? He was very young.
Wait a minute, is that the one where he died?
Yes.
Yes, he died and came back.
He died
and
came back. So
he went to heaven. Right, and he came back or this woman's husband died, and he came back in the body of Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
But he tries to win his wife back, but
because he remembers, right? Because he kind of rushed through the process in heaven, and they never gave him the amnesia shot that he would need to still be the same soul, but not remember his past life. And so he gets back there, and it's like, I think it was
years had gone by,
years had gone by, but I think it was like a hit on the head or something. Anyway, he starts to remember, and he eventually convinces his was she the wife, or was she going to be the wife?
It's been 30 years since I saw that movie,
but
I know what you're talking
what's
about.
The movie again?
Chances Are.
Okay, because I was gonna say this sounds really similar to. It was reminding me of In Time.
And please don't draw this conclusion, because I only realized this years later how creepy that movie actually is. But his soul is destined to be with, is it his daughter? I don't know, but it's crazy weird. Anyway, the point is that she was always meant to be with his best friend. And eventually, after being sad about it for years and years and years, the true love story was the best friend and the wife. And so in that sense, the guy doesn't get the girl.
There's a lot of rom-coms that do that, and usually what it ends up being is the almost always, not every time, but almost always, it's the girl is chasing after the guy, and the guy is becoming more and more selfish and pompous and douchey.
Or it's the best friend who was with them the entire time.
And then it's the best friend that's always been there for her that kind of lifts her up and helps.
Well, I think my favorite example of that was actually a gender swap. So it was Eric Stoltz chasing Leah Thompson in Some Kind of Wonderful, but it was his best friend, the girl who played drums the entire time, that's who he ended up with instead. He was chasing after this idea. Oh God, yeah. But no, it was a John Hughes movie that was but it wasn't a Brat Pack movie. It was called Some Kind of Wonderful, and that movie was dope. So I love that one.
So there's a lot of ridiculous shows that like rom-coms. It's one of three things, right? Either they're going to try to make it work, seem like it's great, have some big event that's going to break them up, and then they come together in the end, but they have a lot to work on. The girl realizes the guy that she's with was garbage and goes with the friend or whatever, or I'm trying to remember what the family tries to keep them apart, and the girl stands up to her family and says no. Like those
Romeo
are
and Juliet kind of moment. Yeah.
Those are like the three tropes, and it's really funny because they all follow the same kind of path. So like an example, and this is just, I wouldn't call it a rom-com, it's just a comedy, but Yumi and Dupree I watched last night because I just wanted something stupid. And the funny thing about Yumi and Dupree is that it looks like it's going to do a rom-com where like he loses his fucking mind and turns into a huge asshole, and she seems like she's getting close to his best friend, and that's where it's gonna go. And what ends up happening is the best friend's like, you're a fucking idiot, go to her, stop being a dick. And like they get back together. He's like, yay, my work is done. And then that's the end of the movie.
It works in horror. It works. I mean, you can always do whatever you want in comedy. Comedy has no rules. As long as it's funny, you can tell whatever story you want.
That is very true.
Rom-coms can flip and forth. Horror movies, classic, you're going to have like sometimes like the good guys do lose, because the villain always survives at the end. The knife comes back up, the hand comes out of the dirt, they grip back up. They're. But in the action genre, it's harder because if you can't have a John Wick movie if John Wick gets killed in the second act. John Wick's got a John Wick. Now that being said, I would love to see a book series, a movie series, a comic series, wherever it's like you follow this one hero for such an extended length of time that they're your person, male, female, doesn't matter. They're your protagonist, and they get wiped out, and like the camera then kind of shifts to like the sidekick who's been with them the whole time, and it's like, and their voice picks up, and they take it forward, because sometimes it works. I've seen it in some book series, and it doesn't always take, because you can't spend 4 or 5 books with somebody and then think you're going to follow this other person around because they're not who you were expecting. Mm-hmm. But I would love to see it done successfully.
I think that in order to do that, you've got to really spend a lot of time building a strong bond between the main and the sidekick. Mm-hmm. So when the main is struck down, the natural feeling for the audience is the sidekick would take the mantle, because it's almost like a father-son or brother dynamic. And so they're like, that they consider each other family. I think it's probably one of the few ways that you could actually
without a doubt, you have to have that kind of relationship. How many times you get Batman out of the picture, I'll never want Robin as my Batman. I just don't. I don't care. Even when Dick Grayson was the Robin for a while, I just didn't care. It just feels like you're filling someone else's shoes. I almost rather see it vacant. But video game players out there was some indie game about, I think it was late PS3, maybe early PS4 era, called Brothers. Did you ever play Brothers? Mm-hmm. It was this game where it's like this kind of like puzzle solving through no dialogue, two brothers on this little adventure, and it's top down, and it's very artistic, it's very beautiful, it's very indie. Left stick controls the one brother, right stick controls the younger brother, and you just kind of push them into where they got to go so they can then activate things with the triggers to move around the puzzle solving. 2/3 of the way through the game, left older brother dies, and then right brother has to take over. So you bring him over, like the body, he's dead, and the surviving brother has to finish the journey, and you go to move the stick and it doesn't work until you move the main brother's stick, and it does, and you have that feeling like, oh no, this is. And it kind of breaks your heart because you've been controlling older brother for so long with one stick, and little brother with this one, that it's like he's no longer the little brother, he's just brother. Yeah. He's the only survivor. And for a game to get you to get that kind of emotion out of it, like, well done, that studio who's like that game I still remember after a decade plus later, And the same thing can be done in any kind of storytelling. You can literally Google worst storytelling tropes, read through the listicle, and go, yep, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that. And sometimes you have to rely on like what does work. But like we already said, if you're always doing the special one-off, then nothing is special. Yeah. You can't. If you do it all the time, it's not special anymore.
Exactly. Well, and I think like in your example, so if we go back to Batman and Robin.
Not the movie Batman and Robin, because that sucked too.
Kiss by a Rose. You shut your nipple suit mouth. That movie was a classic in its own way.
It was not, and I love Kiss by a Rose.
I have a point. Shut up. Okay, so if you go back to the relationship between Batman and Robin, Robin is always sidekick. He's always put in a rung less than, and you get to know very little about him. So you actually don't, that he was part of the Flying Graysons. It's about it. That happened. He was orphaned. He was brought in. Boom. There you go. Like that. And that's all that we get. You don't get his struggling with any of what they're doing, with the exception of physically struggling because he's not as good as Batman. So if you are taking a character and you're constantly putting him 1, 2, 3 rungs below because he's your sidekick, you can't then ask the audience to switch from the person you've put up on a pedestal to the person you have physically been pushing down this entire time, and then be like, he's your hero now. And it's like, well, I don't give a flying fuck about him because I don't know anything about him. He's not a human to me. He's a tool.
It's real in comics, especially that particular trope is if the mantle has been like Green Lantern, you can have a lot of different Green Lanterns. You can have like Flash. There's like you had Barry Allen forever.
You spend time with all of them.
Right.
You spend extended periods of time with them. You don't spend extended periods of time with any of the Robins, really. Unless you are going for
you do, but it's some characters feel untouchable. Right, I know some characters do feel untouchable. Like when, Batman being one of them. So when you change the core of Batman, like we've had this discussion about Batman, like good or bad, which era of Batman was your favorite kind of thing. But it'll forever be Bruce Wayne. But like when it's not, we yell about it, and when it comes back to being it, like. Again, I'm not a Hal Jordan fan. I was a Kyle Rayner fan for Green Lantern, but it doesn't.
Well, and see the thing is, I think like to the point of the game that you were talking about with brothers, you spent equal amounts of time with both of them. They both had very distinct value, and one could not operate without the other. But Batman could very easily operate without Robin, and has done so many, many times. And so the fact that in the game they put them as closer to equals, despite the fact that this one's the older one, this one's the younger one, and so the older one maybe can do more more of the heavy lifting or more of the analytical reasoning or whatever, but he still cannot get through to various puzzles without the younger one, and so they both have value. They
have equal agency. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
And if you set your characters up to both have that kind of equality as far as like the value that they provide for the story and progressing everything forward, it's a lot easier for you to then, okay, one of them's gone, the other one now is taking up the mantle. It feels more natural because you spent time with both of them.
Yeah.
Sai, you had one more thing you wanted to say.
I did, and I've forgotten it.
What do you want to do? Your
now I remember.
Would you rather's? Oh, go ahead.
Now I remember. So we were talking about how it's only in very rare instances where the good guy doesn't win. Can any of you think? Like there's 12 people here. Can either of you think of a good example of a movie or a story that just would not work if the good guy did win? Like where you've rooted for the bad guy and the story just does not. Because I can think of one, and it's funny because in this movie they shot 3 endings until they could get it to where the audience would accept it, and people love it or hate it, and many people hate it. The movie was Swordfish, with John Travolta and Hugh Jackman, and Halle Berry with her
I
boobs.
have never seen that movie.
I haven't either.
All the way through.
So
I think I got to her flashing her boobs, and it wasn't a good movie, so I was like, I'm done.
Let me just say this. By the end of the film, especially for when it came out, by the end of the film, you were rooting for John Travolta's unlimited vigilante idea, even though he was the bad guy, even though he was willing to kill people and be very unapologetic about it. Anything to further his mission of, I'm going to defend this country regardless of what anyone says, regardless of the morality of how I do it. This is going to happen because it has to happen. And this came out right before September 11th.
Okay.
So they shot 3 endings to the movie. One where he doesn't succeed at all. One where he succeeds, but the movie is built around him basically needing to find a way to finance this operation because Congress was being dicks and they needed the money now. Threats were getting out of hand, and he had to. So the second ending was he succeeded, he lived, he got out of the situation that the movie finds itself in, but he didn't end up with the money. And the third ending, the one that the test audiences were willing to accept, was that he succeeded in everything.
Okay.
So in that situation, and it was proved because they shot all 3 of them, and if you have the director's or the deleted scenes of the movie, because I owned it on DVD, you can see all 3 of these endings and see how flat the other 2 just fell.
Right.
And at the end, he blows up a terrorist yacht, and the audience basically leaves the movie cheering, you know.
Well, I would say like Fallen, like we had talked about, could it have worked had he not been able to jump into another creature? Sure, but I don't think that it would have had anywhere near that impact, and that, like, because it leaves you when you walked away from watching Fallen, you walked away immensely disturbed,
Right.
like, because you were like, he's still out there. And you couldn't identify him when he was just jumping into people, but he's out there and he's in fucking animals. Like,
So
he can go anywhere.
Go ahead. One of my all-time favorite movies is As Old as I Am. Jack Nicholson and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh my God! I'm just looking up another Jack Nicholson movie because it helps prove my point about something else.
So
go ahead, though.
If you've never seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jack Nicholson, right? And he's a dude that goes to a mental asylum, and he inspires all the other inmates is the wrong word, patients to like rise up to rebel against Nurse Ratched, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And one day he's sitting around them. He's like, one of these days I'm just gonna pick up this water, like there's a water fountain that's like bolted into the floors. I'm gonna rip it up and throw it out the window and smash it, and I'm gonna escape. They're like, no, you can't. And he's like, oh yeah. And he goes over to the water fountain, grabs it, and starts heaving and hauling and pulling. Nothing happens. And they're all laughing. He's like, yeah, but at least I tried, because none of them had tried. And then by the end of the movie, the nurses win. They gave him the shock therapy. They lobotomized him. They
actually cut him into him and took out a chunk.
Oh
of
yeah,
his brain.
it's the nose.
Well, you can see the scar on his forehead, and it's like that was
Right,
their ultimate revenge, because it wasn't even the doctors that were wanting to do this; it was the nurse.
there was a large Native American guy, but just referred to as Chief, who he was one of the patients the entire time.
Huge.
And after Randall, it was just a big guy, but he was with the group the entire time. So when Randall was like now no longer cognizant of who he is, Chief picks up the water fountain, rips it out of the fucking ground, throws it out the window, and escapes into the night. And it's like, but you could not have had Randall survive and do this. He had to be the impetus for other characters to like do these things. You could not have had him beat the evil nurse and get out of the hospital, because that wasn't the beauty was in his attempt, not his success, and his inspiration to others is what it was meant to do.
I was just gonna say that. So love it or hate it.
That movie, it depends on the day. One day I love it, one day I hate it. It just you have to catch me what mood I'm in, whether or not I love it.
Here's the difference.
Visually it's stunning.
You've got to watch the extended cut. You've got to watch. No. Listen, it fixes the end.
Adds in a lot of where the holes were. So we're watching this, and it's like the extended cut is long, right? But we're watching the extended cut, and I'm like, oh wow, this is really interesting. And Sai was like, I never saw this, and I'm like, how could you have not seen this? Like this is a pivotal moment in the fucking plot line. And Sai's like, it was cut out. It wasn't in the original of the theatrical. This was not in it, and I'm like, well, no wonder people fucking hated it. Like, this makes sense. Without this, I don't know what story you're trying to tell.
I will rewatch that. I'll look for the extended version, and
it's
I'll
on Prime.
My report because then even better, because the first time I watched it, I'm like, well, that was a very well done music video. I love seeing the girl with with a sword fighting the samurai, whatever, to Bjork. It was great,
Bjork was not in that fucking movie. That was one of the actresses. Anyway.
No. The song playing when Baby Doll's fighting the samurai with a minigun is a Bjork song.
I don't know enough about Bjork.
Where Is My Mind is not a Bjork song.
It was in the trailer.
No, that's her singing it. That's that actress singing it.
I don't believe you.
It is. It's Emily Browning.
Regardless,
trust but verify.
Like you were saying about
motherfucker.
So Baby Doll had to be. She had to be taken out basically in order for
the plan to eventually succeed.
To have registered for the other people, because if she didn't go out the way that she went out, the doctor who did the lobotomy
high roller
would not have questioned anything, which wouldn't have led the therapist to check the documents to see that her signature was forged on all of this stuff, to then find the guy who was actually responsible for all of this and deal with him.
Oscar Isaac.
None of that would have gone in place.
Yeah, it all had to fit together, and ultimately she had to be the one to sacrifice herself, because she was the one drawing all the ire throughout the movie of leading this rebellion. And it had to be that way to work. And Gib, I can hear you looking things up. The one other things that I want to say, because I cannot let this go, because we're talking about Jack Nicholson movies, and I want to talk about things that do not work when you invest so much into the hero, as flawed as he is, the hero winning, and then he doesn't.
Yeah, no,
The Pledge. The Jack Nicholson movie, The Pledge. It's directed by Sean Penn, and it's about a detective who catches one last case right before his retirement, right? And he's this old, broken down cop, but something about this case just fucking grips him. It moves him. It touches him in his heart. And it was the murder of a child. And so even in his retirement, it drives him, and he slowly tries to unravel this case, because he starts finding more and more victims in the past of this killer. And it ends with this pivotal moment of he's going to catch the killer. He's set him up. He's leading him to this place. He's going to catch him. And And Jack Nicholson's there, and he's waiting, and he knows it, and this is his crowning achievement. He's old. He's burnt all of his fucking bridges in pursuit of this case, like to the point of like ruining his retirement, spending all his money from his retirement just to bring all this to fruition, and the bad guy never fucking shows up. And so Jack Nicholson,
I don't need to watch The Pledge. Got it.
He ends up by the side of the road, this broken down fucking old man that's basically gone insane because he had built up this thing in his mind so much. And we find out right as the movie is ending that the reason the bad guy didn't show up is because he died in a car accident on his way to the meetup. So in one way, there are never going to be any more murders, but in the other way, everything that Jack Nicholson went through for years to try to prove that this killer was out there and he was going to catch him. And he was going to avenge this mother who basically said, fuck you, when he retired because he never solved the case. It was all for nothing.
That's awesome. That's awesome, actually.
And I walked out of that fucking movie theater so pissed. I still can't even think about it today without it pissing me off. And so if that was Sean Penn's point, congratulations, because I will not watch another Sean Penn directed movie ever. Just saying. So I had to get this out because that is the fuck you that stuck with me for 20 years. This movie's from 2001.
You gotta be careful with fucking over your audience. Like if like I said, if the goal is to make a lasting impression where they think of that work and they just despise it and you for writing it, then go ahead. But if you...
Yes, we all saw The Last Jedi, I know.
If you build them up...
No, this was worse. If you
build it up for somebody for there to be a payoff, and then in the 11th hour you rob your audience...
Right.
Expect to have a whole lot of incredibly pissed off
take your
people.
phone off the hook, move to another country.
You're done. I don't know that I could point to any time where it was done where it was like, I get that was the point, and okay, and like while I'm upset it needed to be told that way, like I can't find a story where I can say that, because everything is like, it's not more impactful that this is how it happened. It's more fuck you and the 2-3 hours you just spent on this journey. Nothing matters.
And this was a slow movie, and Jack Nicholson was not a good person in this movie. He did not start out as a good person. He was very indifferent, and some really bad qualities came out along the way, but you saw him as human and flawed, and to see him come around to just this life, he took it on as a life mission by the end of this, and to see that just crushed.
It sounds like I'm going to watch it now regardless. So
yeah,
I know how it things. I still want to see the breakdown. All right, so do we want to save our would you rather's for when Eric's here, or just knock a couple out while we're here?
Let's knock a couple out. Why not? If you got time.
Fantastic. Oh, I got a couple minutes. So, all right, who would like to go first? I can go first, and you can pick me. Just pick my number for me. All right, Cy, number between 1 and 78. I'll let you know if we've already done it.
Fuck, 22.
22.
Because it's a catch 22. God damn it. 44.
We have not done that one. Okay. Would you rather always get stuck in traffic or always have a terribly slow internet connection? Every time you get in a vehicle, you're always stuck in traffic, or
traffic.
Same. Don't do that. Stuck in traffic, I can watch Netflix.
Yeah,
I can't.
I'm on the internet 99% of my day. I'm in traffic once a week. So I have groceries delivered. All right. I have very, very few reasons to leave this house, especially when Shae is at my desk. So.
All right. Okay. Shae, pick a number between 1 and 78.
3.
Oof.
3. All right. Let's scroll back up. We did 3. That was spaghetti 2. For hair or mayonnaise. Okay. 2. Would you rather have a hamster-sized dog or a dog-sized hamster?
Can I have both?
No.
Dog-sized hamster.
Yes. Yes.
I'll make this even worse for you. When you go to the pet shop, you see both. When you pick one, that's the one you get. The other one gets dead. So which one do you want?
I want a horse-sized guinea pig.
You want a dog-sized hamster?
Yes. I'm sorry,
So the
hamster-sized dog.
Oh yeah, he's.
No, I'll take that one.
Okay, you can have that.
I'll rest it. Yes. They have to be friends,
awesome.
though. They have to be friends,
right.
though.
The problem is when it bites you, it's really gonna hurt.
No, the dog's
Dog-sized hamster.
is to protect.
And then a hamster-sized dog sits on his head.
Yes.
Go, my minion, go!
Yes. Forward.
All right, pick a number for me.
Sly, pick a number for Gib.
27.
27. Let's see here.
I like 3 cubed.
Would I rather go to Disneyland wearing a shirt with my most embarrassing childhood nickname on it, or go to my class reunion with a giant zit? I'd probably go to Disneyland. If it's a free trip, I'll wear that with my Gibbles and chips, because I was a fat kid, and so Gibbles and Bits, like it was because Gibbles potato chips was a brand, and I was a fat kid and I ate them, and it's a Gibbles. Then it turned into Gibbles and Bits because of the Gibbles and Bits commercial. So it was just like, but yeah. Also, my name's Mike, so at the time, give it Mikey. He'll eat it. He eats anything because of Life cereal commercial. Yeah. So yeah, being a chubby kid that already liked to eat,
I've never heard of
got a
Gibbles.
lot of. So
that's weird.
Yeah. So I probably wear that one just because like I hate like.
You know what?
Big old nose
I'm going to end up... let me say one more thing for a little flavor here towards the end. Because one of the things about these shows when we don't have guests on is for the audience to kind of experience a little bit more of us. Not having to perform, just getting to know us. What's something you grew up with in your childhood that you miss not having? Maybe it's a product that went out of favor or production or whatever. Shae, go first.
3D Doritos and Surge.
Ooh, Surge.
They tried to bring them back, and they fucked them both up, and I refuse to admit that they're back at all. 3D Doritos were amazing.
They were just puffy, right?
Yeah,
it
was
was
just
puffy
Doritos
yeah.
that had a pocket of air, and for whatever reason, that made them better.
I was literally just watching a show on Paramount Plus that was like the guy was trying to draw a corollary using 3D Doritos as the way he was drawing his corollary. Literally before, doesn't matter. For me, it would have been the Ninja Turtles Hostess Vanilla Pudding Pie.
Oh gosh.
It was like that green icing cover with the vanilla pudding on the inside. Yeah. Oh, that synthetic sugar and synthetic vanilla flavor, and God, I love those things. Told you I was a fat kid. Oh,
so was I.
Eat them right now.
So was I, and mine's gonna be food too. Just keeping with the theme, because why the fuck not? Soft Batch Cookies by Keebler.
Oh yeah.
They were. For anyone who doesn't know in the audience, it was like the cookie was on the outside and then the entire inside was just the soft chocolate. And it was so fucking good. The closest I can get is like a Marie Callender chocolate chip cookie because they're so soft and just sweet and good. But yeah, literally every time, Shae, you might have noticed this when we were at the store many times shopping. Every time we walk by the cookie aisle, I always keep my eye out for them. So
do we have a guest next time, or are we still free balling it?
Free balling it, commando.
All right, so we're going commando. So next week, what I'll do is I will come up with like a couple of personal questions. Okay. But we'll all vote on a number. And I know what they are, but we will all vote on a number. Let's say come up with 4 questions, but each one of us has to answer the same question. Okay. But these will be like get to know you personal, and I mean personal. So choose wisely. Okay. Oh.
I didn't even hear what you said because I just found out soft batch cookies still exist.
Yes, they do. I was gonna tell you off air, but
you motherfucker. Amazon, here I come.
Take us out, Shae.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out and watching and listening to us bitch incessantly about things that we can't stand in storytelling. Because, why the fuck not? Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to Red Valkyrie. Ding the bell. Maybe go grab some awesome merch from our merch store, redvalkyrie.net/merch. And if you are interested in having any of your work reviewed by the panel, go ahead and send in your writings to redvalkyrie.writingprose@gmail.com.
You got it.
I had to make sure I didn't get it backwards.
Yeah.
We're good.
That's at gmail.redvalkyrie.
Yeah, .redvalkyrie.net.
.dix.net.
Send this now. No dick pics.
Aww.
Thank you guys so much, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
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 Bye. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Writing Prose. Please like, share, and subscribe if you've enjoyed our content. You can also become a channel member or visit our merch store to help support us. We're currently accepting fan-submitted stories for anonymous, on-air review later in the season. Send your submissions to redvalkyrie.writingprose@gmail.com. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.